Munson, and I am the Civil War Guru. And today is video day, and we're going to start our day off with John Brown. That's right, John Brown's Raid, and that's going to be our subject at the first part of this video. In front of you have a photograph of John Brown. And for the novices that don't know who John Brown is, he led the attack on Harper's Ferry to seize the arsenal. And he had 200 rifles, he had 200 pistols, he had 1,000 pikes. And he hoped to secure the arsenal there and the slaves to rise up and join him. And that was the first rebellion against the United States, where everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Slaves didn't rise up. He took hostages, embedded himself in Harper's Ferry Armory. And just a footnote, one of the gentlemen that was one of his hostages was a famous gunsmith down in Harrisburg. We'll mention him just a little bit, but anyway, he was stuck, and they called in the Marines, and they were led by Colonel Robert E. Lee, and they surrounded the building and had a little shootout, and he capitulated, and they was captured. So today we're going to shoot those three particular weapons that he carried into the arsenal there at Harper's Ferry. All right, Kenny, let's get ready to work some of your magic. All right, we got the first object up here, and it is a slant breech Sharps carbine. And John Brown had these shipped to him in 1855 in crates that said Beecher's, it's B-E-E-C-H-E-R-S, Beecher's Bibles. And this was the carbine that was actually captured, one of them, at Harper's Ferry. And then the federal government reissued them after they captured them to the 1st U.S. Dragoons, and that's the California Cavalry. And this was used by Sergeant William F.S. Johnson, Company B. And we'll get up, I'll get Kenny work some of his magic and get some close-ups of the receiver and some of the parts of the gun. But this was it. This is slant breech. As you can see, the guys that know sharps, the receiver slanted toward the rear of the gun. But what's so cool about this one is it's in the serial number range that was captured, and it's also got the guy's name scratched in the compartment. And we're going to lift that little brass plate up and see if we can pick it up. But this is really cool and super rare, and this is one of the three items we're going to photograph for the John Brown theme. All right, Kenny, get up here and see if you can work a little magic. All right, we're going to give you a good shot of this receiver, and Kenny's got it in front of you is the Sharps and then an 1853 date on it. And then he'll back it up and get a whole shot of that slant breech receiver. And this is in the 13,000 serial number range. That's perfect. All right, now we'll move to another position. All right, that's about the best shot we're going to get on Johnson's name. It's so light, and the lighting in here is not very strong. So, but it has his name. Actually, it's a little bit better than scratched in, but it's in the patch box. All right, now we're going to move to the reverse side of the gun. All right, I just wanted to get a shot of the back of this slant breech carbine. You see a long saddle ring bar on it, and that's indicative of a slant breech carbine. And it has a cartouche right there on the wrist. So it's a really cool gun. And this is one that was captured at Harper's Ferry. All right, now we'll go to the next item. All right, this is one of the pistols that was used by John Brown that he purchased. This is a Massachusetts arms pistol. And of course, it's made in Massachusetts. And they only made 1,000 of these, and they were made in the early 1850s. I think they quit making them in 58 or 59. But this is a magnificent example. It has a lot of engraving on it. And it's got a little, if you see a plate on the side right under the hammer, that's for a Maynard tape. But this is a real cool pistol, obscure maker. And again, it survived the raid of John Brown. Now I'm gonna have Kenny move it around and get the maker's name on the top so you know who it is. All right, Kenny's got a good shot at the top of the receiver. And that's a Massachusetts Arms, that's the manufacturer, Chesapeake Falls, Massachusetts. And this gun's in really exquisite condition. But it's one of the survivors of the John Brown raid. Now we'll go to the last item that we have here on the John Brown raid. All right, this is the final object we're going to shoot in this little John Brown grouping. This is the original pike on the original shaft. And I had Kenny focus in on the sign there so you can take a second and read it. This thing came from the Charles Gunther collection in Chicago, Illinois, and he had one of the largest Civil War collections in the United States right up through the turn of the century. So this is just impeccable provenance on it. And I'm gonna get Kenny to come up here, and the thing's got a 6-foot shaft on it. So we're just gonna get the end where the pike is, where it's double edged and it's got a guard like a Bowie knife. So we'll get Kenny to take a shot of that. All right, there you go. There's the pike that was made by Mr. Blair, Charles Blair of Collinsville, Connecticut. And they made for John Brown. That's a wonderful condition. And double edge, this patina is impeccable and wonderful provenance too. But that was the pike that he ordered. And so those are the 3 main items that were inside Harper's Ferry when it was captured. And again, the boy from Kentucky, his name was Benjamin Mills, famous Kentucky rifle maker in Harrisburg, Kentucky. All right, now we're going to move to a different grouping. Okay, we're back, and now we're going to shoot the Military Academy display. In this particular display, we have a West Point uniform on your left, tunic, and we have the only known existing pre-war Kentucky Military Institute jacket. And it is absolutely breathtaking. As you can see in the front of it, there's some blue ribbons. And this belonged to a friend of mine down in Nashville. And he used to put on the show, the Nashville Civil War show. I believe it was Larry Hinkland. Good guy, great guy. Had a little shop there at Stones River. But in this particular display, we have these 2 tunics. We have 2 cadet rifles. And KMI stuff is absolutely extinct. We have a Doug KMI buckle. Let me just a little history on Kentucky Military Institute. This thing come into existence in 1845. But I just want to read off some of the names, Confederate and Union, that went to KMI. Confederate General Benjamin Hardin Helm. We all know who he is, right here from Bardstown, Kentucky. Major General Thomas Moore. Samuel Woodson Price, Confederate, 21st Kentucky. And we're talking about James Hood. And I can go on Captain Joseph Dasha. And I believe his dad was a previous governor of Kentucky. Captain Didlake, he was the adjutant for WCP Breckenridge, which we shot his grouping not too long ago. And Union guys, just to name a few, there was Colonel Daniel Lindsay. He commanded 22nd Kentucky. Eli Long, he commanded the 4th U.S. Cavalry, that's the 4th Ohio. And then we got the Colonel Hervey, that's an unusual name, it's not Harvey, it's Hervey McDowell, class of 1856, 2nd Kentucky, and on and on. And I guess one of the most infamous of the Union generals come out here was Major General Stephen Burbridge, and he started out with the 26th Kentucky, then he was made commander of the Kentucky Military District, and actually about 3/4 way through the war, they pulled him out because he was executing innocent prisoners that were in stockades and compounds. And a friend of ours that's director of the Battlefields of Perryville Museum, he wrote a great book called Butcher Burbage, and Brian Bush is his name. But just both sides went to KMI, and they produced some terrific leaders. And actually, they stayed in business until the 1970s, and they went out. Now we're going to get up and get you a close-up of the original building. We got a lithograph of that, and just a couple of artifacts in there. But military cadets were important, and they were from the beginning of the time in the United States. But from Kentucky, it's kind of near and dear to our heart. But I'm going to get Kenny move the camera up first on the Kentucky Military Institute jacket. All right, Kenny's got a great shot here of this Kentucky Military Institute tunic. It's just absolutely breathtaking. 3 rows of untouched Kentucky buttons. And these are the early ones. These are the rimless for all you guys out there that dig buttons. And it's just fabulous condition, just outstanding condition. And I'm going to get Kenny to pull up on it and catch one of these buttons. There's 39 buttons on this tunic. Alright, he's got you in vogue here. That's a 2-piece, again, rimless Kentucky button. That's the 2 pioneers shaking hands. And just unbelievable and just fantastic. And then we're going to go to the next item. In this case, there's a couple cadet muskets. And they're definitely American made. Now where they were made out, they're totally unmarked. And I've had people say they're made in the South. And you can draw your own conclusion, but we'll get a couple scans of, we got 2 different ones. All right, Kenny. All right, this is the first cadet musket. And it's all brass hardware. And Kenny's got you a shot of the lock. And I'll just have you fade back on it so you can get a good look at it. And again, this is cadet size. All right, Kenny's got a good shot of this second little cadet musket. And it's got a bolster type mechanism on it, percussion of course. And it has one of those rare, Confederate linen slings. And he'll back and try to get in. Again, it's got brass hardware. And fade around back, Kenny, so you can get a look at it. Yeah, these belt plates are so rare, so extinct. And this was dug up in Frankfort where the old building was when they were grading and cleaning up there in the 70s. This thing was dug up there near a tree. Pretty cool. But there's your KMI. All right, the final shot in this case is going to be the lithograph of the Kentucky Military Institute. All right, Kenny's got it zoomed in there, and we got the cadets out on the promenade there, and the flag waving. And he's going to fade back and get a picture of the building itself. And pretty cool looking building. And this again is a colored lithograph. Don't get them too dizzy, Kenny. That's a good one. And this building was vacated, and this was in Frankfort, and then KMI was moved up to Louisville, near Louisville, out on LaGrange Road, and then that's where its final days were. All right, Kenny, that looks like a great shot. All right, let's move to the next grouping. All right, I wanted to include this sword in there. I've got a soft spot in my heart for early militia swords. And this is from South Carolina. This is in the 1840s. This is a N.P. Ames manufacturer. And it's so marked on the blade. But what we really want to get is so interesting. You got the palmetto tree belt plate, two-piece. But you got this magnificent palmetto tree on the guard. And I'll get Kenny to kind of slide around there and get that, because that is just so cool. You look at the early South Carolina soldiers that fielded at the beginning when they were in their blue uniforms in the first 6 to 8 months of the war. They were all carrying this type of sword. These types were used by the artillery. And we love artillery. All right, Kenny, move around and get that great guard on this sword. All right, here we go. That's what we call the old money shot. You got your palmetto tree in the center, and the cannons and the flags on both sides. That's a wonderful shot. And it's, of course, got engraved blade, and I'm not going to bore you with all that, but I'm going to kind of rotate up if I don't make it too dizzy and catch that eagle head. There you go. Just another wonderful piece of early Americana. And in the 1840s, they used the eagle motifs a lot. But this is just spectacular, and it is a South Carolina wonderful sword, brass scabbard, fully engraved, with the two-piece belt plate. All right, we just want to stop for a second and shoot this. All right, we'll go to the next item. All right, we're here with a new display. And this display that's in front of you belonged to Colonel William M. Fenton. And he was the commander of the 8th Michigan Infantry. And they were called the Wandering Regiment. That's because they fought in both the Eastern Theater and the Western Theater. And I'm looking here at his accolades. He fought at Antietam, and then it's Blue Springs, Tennessee, Campbell Station, Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee, then back over to the Wilderness, Spotsylvania, Cold Harbor, Petersburg. So these guys were back and forth. But this is just a real cool officer's gripping. We have his that wooden chest in front of him with his name on it, ID. It has a fold-out mirror when you open it up, stand up, and it's shaving. You have shaving utensils in there. And then we have his camp chair, which has a wonderful federal eagle on it. And we'll get Kenny Rogers to move around and get that federal eagle. And we also have a photograph of him. But I have Kenny work a little magic there and zoom in on that name so you can see it real good. But this guy was a crackerjack, hard fighter. And always the Michigan boys, they always stood up and were counted. That's great, Kenny. And it's a wonderful idea. And above it, it's got a little eagle motif. And then get a good look at that. And then we'll move over to the back of that chair. It is just so cool. It's got a little federal eagle carved in the back of it. All right, Kenny. All right, there's the federal eagle on the shaven chest. I had to say it. Kenny snuck up and got a good shot of it. All right, now we'll go to the chair. All right, that's super cool. That's the back of his folding chair. All these guys, these officers had camp chairs. And this is probably the neatest one I've ever seen. All right, Kenny's going to kind of get down and get you a photograph of this guy. And kind of zoom in on it for you. All right, Kenny's bringing a good job bringing it up. Bring it up a little tighter so they can see his face. This guy's got a real stern look on his face. I got a funny feeling that if you didn't do exactly what he wanted, he'd probably give you a little discipline. But a great American hero. These guys were tougher than a night in jail. And both Eastern and Western Theater. All right, we're going to go to our next grouping. All right, what we're going to do in this particular shot is we have the grouping of General John Parker Hawkins. And this guy, he had a real strange, I guess, history in the military. He started off, when he went to West Point, out of a class of 43, he was 40th. And he became second lieutenant, of course. And they put him into the quartermaster corps, commissary department. And he milled around. Then he put him in charge of he was chief commissary in the Army of Tennessee, and that was under Sherman. And then, all of a sudden, he ends up down south in Louisiana, the northeast part of Louisiana. And he had begged and begged and begged for a command. So they put him in charge of an all-black brigade. They made him brigadier general on April 13th, 1863. And he took that garrison and fought at the Battle of Vicksburg. And then he led the same group of African Americans in the Battle of Mobile in March of '65. And he won great accolades for his gallantry and meritorious service. And he ended up being a major general in the regular army, and he retired out in the 1890s. And what we have in front of us is his travel trunk. We have his 1850 Staff and Field sword, his Remington revolver, his map case with his name on it, his compass, his civilian jacket, his button cleaner support, the little brass unit there, his binoculars. And so we're going to get Kenny up there, but right in front of you, you see the marking on the end of the trunk. And of course, as you know, the white commanders of any black units, if they got captured, they got executed. So he had a little bounty on his head, but he went from commissary, pushing paper around to a real hero. It's a great American story. All right, there you got a great shot of I call them map cases and document cases, and anyway, it has his name on it. Fantastic, and it's that Japanese finish with tin finish, and his name wonderfully put on there. And Kenny's just going to back out a little bit and get the overview of what his artifacts are, and get him stopped just right there. That's a model 1858 Remington Army, and that's a 44 caliber. And you see the little brass thing that's laying there, and of course, everybody learned what that was in the movie Dancing with Wolves with Kevin Costner. You put that over your buttons and polish your buttons. And just a little pocket compass, and just a little spoon and pocket knife. And of course, it's 1850, standard 1850 Staff and Field, and binoculars. He's going to back out a little bit more. And then his final shots, he's just going to zoom up on get a real tight shot of General Hawkins, so you can see what he looked like, and that'll be the final shot. All right, there's the final shot there. There's a very good shot of the General Hawkins, and outstanding guy. He just fought and fought and fought till he got what he wanted. He got his command. All right, Kenny, great job. Let's move to the final artifact. All right, this is our final artifact of this video, and I just had to include it. Is this another officer of the 2nd Kentucky Infantry? That's right, 2nd Kentucky. I don't know how we accumulated, but we have 7 swords of the 2nd Kentucky. And this is a magnificent sword. It's standard 1850 foot, and this was presented to the gentleman by his brother. And we'll get up here and get that presentation. And he's got an unusual last name. It's O-N-G, Ong. And his name was David, and he was lieutenant. And he fought in the early battles in West Virginia with the 2nd Kentucky. And then on down to Corinth, where he got severely wounded, and his war was over. He come back to Kentucky and died in the 1890s. But this is just another wonderful, untouched Kentucky piece of history, which, I'm from Kentucky, and it floats my boat. So we're going to get Kenny over here to get a shot of that presentation, because it's really just breathtaking. All right, we got the presentation on Mr. Ong's sword, and of course it reads, Lieutenant, and with his initials, and you can hear it raining outside, 2nd Kentucky. And it was presented to him in June, I think it's 24th, 61. Real early presentation. But this guy did all the great stuff in the early part of the Civil War. And like I say, he got wounded, at Corinth, and he was done. All right, that's our parting shot. We just want to get one more piece of Kentucky history in here. So for myself, Civil War Guru, Kenny Rogers, our cameraman, and the board of directors of the old Bardstown Civil War Museum, we bid you farewell.